What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Energy Shift. It is our Tuesday check-in, wellness, all healthy things, and I'm really excited because I have my first guest on Energy Shift. You guys all know Miranda. She is on with Katie, right? You guys do some help with ladies going through divorces and financial stuff. And what else do you do? Tell me about you. We talked a little bit, but we're kind of getting to know each other too, and on on air live.
Oh, yeah.
Please
I
go.
love it. Yeah, so my name is Miranda Ray, and I really, my goal is just to help women connect to themselves. That's the process I've been in for a long time. I've been married and divorced twice. So I do help run the divorce community, and that is kind of my specialty. So only because I'm so experienced with it and the emotions and working through that. But I really just work with women in general, because we become so disconnected. We become so lost in everything that we have going on in our hormones and everything that's happening. And I just felt like there was a space, not necessarily therapy. I have some psychotherapeutic education, but it's not therapy. I'm not a therapist, and it's not just prescribing coaching. It's really like guiding people. I call it being like a conscious collaborator to help women, like, let's talk through some of this stuff, and let's kind of make some connections to our past, and let's kind of really get clear about, what do we want? I think we spend so much time like, I don't know how I feel. We're so lost in our feelings and our emotions, but we don't always have the time to be like, well, what do I want? How do I want to feel? What do I want to life to look like? So there's a whole lot in there, but basically I like to say I specialize in emotional awareness and empowerment.
I love that so much. So you were telling me when we were chatting briefly in the DMs that you do a lot of work in the divorce space, but you're trying to venture. You like that work, but you're trying to venture towards other areas within your wheelhouse and expertise. And we kind of dove into talking about stress management, which I know is huge, especially women our age. You have families, there's a lot going on. Work is generally, we're in like the peak of our careers, high stress. And before we jumped on here live, you also brought up the word intention. And for some reason, like I have been saying intention a lot. And I think for me this year, moving in even further into the direction of intentionality with my goals, with my stress management, with my health and wellness, even my financial goals, is kind of the theme of what I want to do and who I want to be. And I'm bringing that into my space. But maybe you can explain some of what your thoughts are for the ladies watching and those who are not navigating divorce, but really still kind of feel lost and stuck within who they are, wanting to make a change. How do we start to shift where we are now to who we want to become? And I think you're right. You said something that's really impactful. Like sometimes we don't even know what that is, but we're like, we don't feel at home within ourselves anymore. So how do you start to navigate that?
Yeah, divorce doesn't have to be the thing, right? Ultimately, and maybe some people have had great amicable experiences, but those aren't mine. So ultimately, what I've been through is huge disconnection from self. And so that's really the bottom line. There is we've disconnected from what we want or who we are. And sometimes we get lost in like, I've got to find myself. No, we don't need to find ourselves. We just need to take off the weight and the shit. I don't know if I could say that, but the everyone else's stuff, all of our expectations, all of the guilt, all of our parent stuff, all of our grandparent stuff, all of our husband stuff, our boyfriend stuff, whatever that we unknowingly or sometimes knowingly take on. And that's what's under there. So sometimes when we talk about intention, we don't even really have time to be conscious, aware, and intentional, or we feel like we don't have time, right? Most of us are just trying to get by every single day. We're trying to survive. So the idea, it's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. So we're not going to like move up. Most of us are not going to move to the remote village somewhere and get off of social media and like live a quiet life. We have circumstances, we have realities, we have families, we have things we have to do. So it's not about changing our circumstances necessarily, unless you are in that divorce space. but it's about looking the filter of how we look at things and how we feel about things. So I could talk about that forever, but I'll say that my most favorite thing to say is it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And if you ask my kids, they hate that. I say it all the time, but there's a big difference between like saying something, the energy behind something, right? If you say to your kid, "Oh God, I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. You should be so proud of yourself." They feel that. But if you say, "Yeah, I love you. Good job." They don't feel that. And we, the same from our partners. If our husbands or our boyfriends are be like, "Yeah, you look fine." But if they say like, "God, you look amazing. Like, you're so beautiful." That hits different. And so we hear that from the external world and from outside. But when it comes to ourselves, like, are we talking to ourselves that way? Are we seeing things that way? And are we being intentional about what we're doing during the day? When we're listening to things, are we actually focusing on what we're hearing? Or are we just checking a box? When we meditate, are we actually being still? Or are we like still all over the place and not able to sit still? Does that make sense? Like, there's so many things that we do that if we could shift how we do them as opposed to like doing different things, it could make big different changes.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I love what you're saying. We do have an inner voice that is often negative,
Mm,
especially as women, and especially as women as we enter, more into middle age because our bodies change, our lifestyles change, our hormones change, we're feeling differently, and so that can creep into a lot of negative self-talk, which
yeah.
leads into then other parts of our life. When we're saying you're fat and ugly, that's extreme, but a
Mhm.
lot of us do that to ourselves. We're like, we don't
Mhm.
like how we look, we don't like how we feel. And instead, I mean, I think when we're talking about intentionality and we're talking about changing our lives, a lot of people get stressed and overwhelmed. They think they have to overhaul everything, but it can be as simple as intentionally speaking to yourself kinder. If like
Mm,
you're strong, your pants don't fit the way you want them to, instead of like berating yourself, it's like, no, I'm strong, I've carried children,
mm,
I work really hard. Now, is there room for change in there? Possibly, but I don't think, usually we cannot change if we're shaming ourselves into change, right?
mm,
We can only change when we see the positive in what we're doing, and we're more inclined to lead a healthier lifestyle or be more mindful, or even something that like meditation is really hard when your brain is never quiet. So those kinds of things, like, we can start to shift really small things, and that's what I
mm.
try to talk about that a lot, because I know for moms especially, life is full of overwhelm and decision fatigue. And when we think about changing our mindset, changing our health, whatever the case may be, it's very overwhelming. So, what are some small mindset shifts or small behavioral shifts that we can start making that's going to lead us into a better place in our heads, and then therefore probably a better place in our bodies, our health, in our relationships, even? Because I think you're right. When we're talking to ourselves negatively, then we might be snappy with our partners,
Mhm.
snappy with our kids, snappy with the dog. And then we're just like kind of perpetuating that negative cycle.
Yeah. Before I get into actual tangible steps, I want to say connect. The word I keep hearing in my head is connection. So beyond that intention, if you can't connect to it, if it doesn't do anything here for you, it's going to be hard for you to have that focused intention. So being able, like the fake it till you make it, I used to push myself. Like I got to get this workout done. And that for me personally, that was damaging, or it wasn't helpful because I just was trying to fit something that didn't feel right. It didn't connect to me. But when I started to go, okay, what does sound good? Affirmations are great if you say them to yourself and they are mantras or whatever. But if you don't believe it, then that's the big difference. So connect to what works for you. If you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, "You're so beautiful and so pretty," and you don't believe it, then maybe you need some time to work it. That's okay. But what do you believe? What can you fall back on? I am a hard worker. I love people. There's got to be something in that you actually can connect to, if that makes sense. So that was the first thing I wanted to say is don't force yourself to do something if it doesn't feel good. Find something within that feels good. That, like, I call it discipline flexibility. Like, find something within what you're trying to do that fits. So I'll say that. But as far as making little shifts, the first thing is start early. And I'm sure you talk about this all the time. Start in the beginning of the day. Do the things that are for you, that ground you at the beginning of the day, so that you can start from a clean slate in a good place. Because if you're operating from a deficit, you're up, you're go, 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 and you're doing this and you're doing that, and you're already at a deficit, and then you're spending most of the day trying to climb out of that hole. So like I would say shift these things to the morning would be one thing. Another thing is quality over quantity, right? So like I started with 5 minutes of meditation. I could connect to that. It seemed realistic. It doesn't have to be it could be like just listening to the birds outside, or it could be putting music on. But it was about connecting to myself and the thoughts going away instead of having some, 30-minute journey. It's really just like, what can I do that puts me in that place of concentration? It puts me in that place of allowing thoughts and feelings to come in and is not distracting me.
Yeah, I love that. I think when we set forth, or even if we're not really intentionally trying to change, but we know something needs to shift, I think human instinct is just to try to do it all. And that's where we can lose ourselves too. It's like, I want to be healthier, so I need to add 6 workouts. I need to overhaul my food environment. I need to do, there's all of these things that go through our heads. And if we're not perfect, we believe we're failing. So I love what you said about front loading your day is what I always say to people too, is like, get it done in the morning, even if that's just you get up 15 minutes earlier and pack yourself a healthy lunch for the day. You're net positive, and you know that you have a lunch instead of, like skipping that meal, which I know a lot of women do because you get busy midday, or running through a drive-through, ordering DoorDash. It's just as simple as those little steps. And it really took, 5 to 15 extra minutes to get that done, or going on a walk, or even sitting outside and meditating for 5 minutes in the sunshine and getting some vitamin D. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it. And I don't know where along the line we've decided that wellness has to be all encompassing. It can be one small shift, right? It doesn't have to be a million things. And usually when we start feeling better and start seeing the results of our actions, that one meal, cooking or preparing a healthy lunch, then sets you up for adding to it later, because you're excited that you got your lunch meal under control, your blood sugar is more regulated, you have more energy. Then that leads to, instead of like panic preparing a quick dinner or running, ordering a pizza or whatever the case may be, you're then able to make a healthy dinner for the family, or like those are the kinds of things that we sleep on. Yeah, exactly.
Preparation. And I am number one guilty of that. I'm a ADHD procrastinator, overstimulated, and that's my thing that I have to deal with. And I know the more it's for me, it's not. So I think I talked to about my boyfriend and I are doing 75 hard. We have 1 week left. We finish on Saturday. I have been working out, doing yoga. I understand on paper how I need to change my body. I've been doing it for 25 years. I've done every challenge. I know it. It's for me, it was the pushing through. It was the mental part of it without beating myself up. So like I've realized that it's so obvious, but I'm finally starting to understand, the more I prep and the more I prepare myself, the less confusion and chaos exists around it. And I'm already chaos in my head. So I don't need any more chaos. So what are the things I can do that make it easier on me? And one of those things, like having the food prepared, having it cut already. I work from home. He works in the office, so he meal preps and I don't. And I'm like, I should still do that because I'm still at work. I'm still busy. I'm still doing things. If I can just grab it and I have it prepared, that's such a win. But those are things in my scattered brain. And I'm like, oh, I'll do it later. It's too much time. It's too much effort. But in the long run, it actually saves me that mental energy later.
Yeah, so it's so true. And I think when we think about stuff like food prep, it feels really overwhelming, but what we don't tie to it is exactly what you said. It's like, yes, figuring out how to find 2 to 3 hours in your week to prep food does feel overwhelming when you're not doing it, but it really saves you 8 hours of time in the rest of the week that you're not preparing food, or midday if work gets crazy, you already have your meal prep in the fridge. All you got to do is throw it in the microwave. It's according to the goals that you have. And it really does make a difference. And stress management is so huge when it comes to health, wellness, body composition change, all of those things, whatever it is you want to achieve. But like there is some imbalance there in the beginning. You're going to feel like 2 to 3 hours on Sunday feels really stressful when you normally did other things on Sunday to prepare your meals. But over time, it gets a lot easier. And there's tools, crock pot, air fryer, a lot of things that will make it a lot easier for you and navigating that. That's why I like these conversations, because it hopefully gives everyone ideas when they watch it live or later on how to start slowly shifting things to actually reduce stress by just having some implemented, and we're going to bring intentional time to set your week up for success and set, the family's week up for success too. Because I know when I'm on top of my goals and I don't feel chaos constantly, I'm just a better human in general. I'm nicer to my husband. I'm nicer to my employees, like I don't have those panic moments, and it can really save you from a lot of that stuff.
Well, and it goes back to it's how you think about it. Time, it should be, the focus should be time. That's you save time in the long run. And then even money if you're not out buying things you don't need. But we don't always talk about is the emotional expense, the cost of your energy towards something, the cost of your stress, that goes up. So there's a cost there that's involved, but we are only thinking about time. We're not talking about the emotional blocks. Those are chunks. That's exchange. It's a currency. And so we're saying, because I don't want to do this now and pay a little bit, I'm going to pay way more later. So if we can think about that too, instead of time, think about your energy as time. If that analogy works, and hey, if I spend a little bit of this now, I won't have a burnout later. I'm going to make it way easier on myself, and I owe it to myself. I love myself. This is how I show myself love. Yeah. And that has been another hard thing for me to learn too, is I deserve this. I'm worthy of this. And why would I not want to do this for myself?
Yeah, no, I love that so much. I think humans are inclined to pleasure, right? So we want to do what feels good in the moment, but we forget about future self. What does future Miranda want? What does future Erin want? And that's, for most of us, it's less stress, a body we feel good in, energy, all of those things are really important. And you're right. If you trading a little bit of time for the energy that you're going to receive in the future as a future version of yourself, even if that future version is just a week from now, that's huge.
Those things you're talking about, that adds up.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. If we spend a little bit of time on the weekends or the beginning of the week asking ourselves, what does future me want, especially on the days that are chaotic for us. We all know we have those days. Tuesday for me is always chaotic because I do my client check-ins, I do energy shift, I do all kinds of stuff. So it's a packed day. And if I don't have food prepared on top of that, I'm scrambling to get meals in. I'm freaking out about not hitting the gym, all of these things. And a lot of us have that, if you have kids in sports, those evening sports practices or whatever the case may be, those days may feel chaotic. So how do we set ourselves up to have less stress and better energy transfer for those days too? It's on those days, I'm just going to throw chicken into the crock pot and we'll do quick tacos when we get home, instead of, getting home and the kids are hungry and screaming and you're frazzled and low energy and low blood sugar. You're just going to thank yourself so much for just putting that food into the crock pot. So you get home, you just feed the kids and yourself, and you're good to go to bed.
Everybody's in a better place mentally, emotionally. Well, and I have 4 kids and I'm a single mom. So there's a lot, again, going back to my circumstances aren't changing and I wouldn't want them to, but the things that I do in between make all the difference. And it's really, I have to ask myself sometimes, is this an excuse? What are the emotions behind this? If I'm putting something off or I'm procrastinating it, and we're never perfect. Sometimes a drive-through, and as much as I hate McDonald's, sometimes it's a $5 meal deal for them after 3 hours of baseball. But if I notice a pattern where I'm not commit. I'm not following through. I'm not preparing myself. It was stop, like pull back and ask myself, what's going on? Why am I feeling, what emotions are coming up for me? Why am I feeling like I can't do this? Or maybe even, am I making excuses? Am I saying it's too hard? Am I saying, and that goes for me, I always, tie everything back to childhood. So that's another conversation, but it's just like, why do I feel like I can't put the time in that I need to? And so for some of you out there that are listening, it's not always about like just pushing through and making it happen. Sometimes there's opportunity for you to pull back and go, okay, so why is this so difficult for me? What's going on with me? And really listening to yourself. Because if your mind and your body are trying to tell you something, then investigate that a little bit instead of like, no, I just got to push through. I just got to work harder. Like maybe what I'm trying to say is getting a little more curious about the things that are struggles or frustrations.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I'm glad you brought this up, because self-reflection in any sort of goal achievement or any sort of shift is huge. And both of us are in the coaching space and self-development space, but we can't do that for you.
Mm-mm.
We can encourage it, but we don't know. You brought up childhood, and there is a lot rooted in our behaviors that start in childhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's been researched time and time again. And we might not even know it. I know that I have some financial blocks based on my parents having poor financial habits. And so I have had to work intentionally to get myself to the other side of overspending and like feeling like anytime I had some extra money, I had to buy myself some treats or what, those kinds of things that came from my parents. And I'm not blaming them. I don't think that blame is the way. We can shift, but identifying that is like, I'm like, why can't I ever be where I want to be financially? And then I like take some steps backward and I'm like, no, I'm behaving in a way that I was taught, but we can unlearn a lot of these things. And it could be finances, it could be health and wellness, it could be just improving how you feel. There's a lot of ways. So how do we start to, because this self-identifying or self-reflection and essentially calling ourselves out on bullshit that we do to ourselves is probably the hardest part of any goal achievement process. So how do we start to navigate that, knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable?
So I think the first step is awareness, and it's a gradual process, right? So for me, and maybe I'm a little slower than others, but it took me years, especially like in my marriage, it took me years. Like I'm aware I feel this way, connecting to that awareness. You're not just going to make changes the next day. It takes a while to be like, okay, I'm aware of this. I'm aware I don't want to feel this way. And some people will get stuck there forever and they're just regurgitate that. I know I don't want to be in this situation, whether it's physically, mentally, or emotionally, but I don't know what to do about it. But this is all I know, but I don't know what to do. And then we just get caught in that wheel. So it's really having the awareness, but then having grace for yourself that you go like, you know what? I know where I want to be, but if sometimes that is really overwhelming, or if we see these pictures of a girl that looks way different than us and we're like, oh, that's really my dream body, but I could never get there. If you see that and you get stuck on that, then you're spiraling. So you're thinking about something different, but you're still spiraling in that place. So it's like you were talking about, like what I like to have non-negotiables. So pick 3 things that are non-negotiables that you want to implement into your life. And within those 3 things, have some flexibility. So mine is like, I love stretching. I think I didn't realize when I was young how important stretching was. I'm just like, oh, I'm going to work out. But I didn't realize that for my muscles. But then stretching also helps me here. So I tell myself, ideally, I would love to do like 45 minutes worth of yoga a day. Like, I think that would be great. Realistically, I do that maybe once a week. Realistically, 10 minutes on the floor stretching without my kids and without my phone and without anything, just sitting and listening to myself elicits kind of that same feeling that 45 minutes of yoga would. So give yourself a range of like, here's my ultimate goal, but here's what I will stick to if I can't do that. And is this non-negotiable? And it becomes part of your day. As important as feeding your children or as important as going to work, it becomes part of your schedule of these are my 3 non-negotiables. And then once you do something over and over again, it becomes habit. And then you pick new ones and then you adjust and you take those little teeny steps all of the way. But getting caught up in like the big picture can be just as stressful as staying in those negative emotions.
Yeah, I think you're so spot on there. We have an idea of what we want the ultimate outcome to be, and we will continue to self-sabotage and like really overlook. Like, I love how you said you want to do 45 minutes yoga a day, but that's not always feasible. And so you're doing 10 a day. But when we fit in, and that can be anything, meal prepping,
Intentionality.
yeah, yes, being intentional, exactly. I love it. About whatever it is you want to achieve, knowing that the ultimate goal might be hitting 45 minutes of yoga. Even if you did it 5 days a week, that would be rad. You start with 10, you have that time block in, and then maybe you're like, okay, I've been doing 10, I can fit in 20.
Yeah.
And that's how that adds up. We don't have to start. If you started with 45 minutes a day for 7 days a week and you didn't hit that, then you're doing that negative cycle in your head. You're
burnout,
like,
guilt,
I'm a
shame.
failure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do that to ourselves so frequently. And that's usually why it's harder to reach our goals. Cause it's like, I'd like to have a certain amount of money in the bank, but I look at my bank statement now and it's like, that goal is so far away. But if I only focus on that goal and I'm scared of it, instead of just being like, no, every single week I'm just gonna like save a little bit more, even if that's $100. It doesn't have to be this significant sum of money, but I'm chipping away at it. And that's where a lot of us fall short, is like, we're like, well, I'm never gonna get to a bank account that has like however much money you want in there. I'm never going to get to my body composition goal, which is just simply not true. We're putting ourselves in a place of too much pressure to get to a extreme end goal, when really we should have, the end goal is great, but we like going from $10,000 in the bank to $12,000 in the bank could be a goal too. And that's a lot more achievable. You're like, I can figure out how to save $2,000 in however much time, instead of being like, I'm never going to get $100,000. And we do that to ourselves.
We do, because the real work behind it is like, why do I want that body? Why do I want that money? What is it about that is driving? It has me thinking about that. And so what is it? There's an emotion, or there's something that you want to feel that you don't currently feel, that's wrapped up in that. Yeah. So if we can go, well, yeah, that's my goal, but I'm going to love myself and feel about myself the way I would here and there, then it makes it easier to get there. But if I always like to say, like, your default emotions, your things are your things. So no matter what you go through in life, there's never, I got it wrong. I thought there was a flip that you switched and you're like, oh, I'm okay now. I'm healed now. It doesn't happen that way. The same stuff comes back to haunt you. The same feelings come back to haunt you. It's just how you deal with it, how fast it comes, how aware of it you are, and how you change, how you deal with it. The same stuff is always there. So acceptance of that, and really finding some amount of peace in the current situation before you start working towards that, I think is really helpful, at least for me, because like at the beginning of 75 Hard, I was like, yeah, I know what I want to look like, but I know what I have to do. I was already defeating myself. I was already like down on myself. But now I'm changing the whole way of how I work. Like, yeah, I want to be there, but like, look at everything I've done. And that's a change. So I'm just going to be thankful and appreciative of the changes that I've made. And then know that if I implement that all over again, I'll look like another version of myself, but I still love this one.
Yeah, I think that it's a good place to be mentally, and it's so important to think of it that way, because 75 Hard is a daunting feat. We did talk about this a little bit. It's it's a tough challenge, and I think the beginning part feels hard. When you're in it and doing it, you start to adopt the mindset that you need to be in. And you're right. I think that this is a good example, because you felt very like kind of a sense of overwhelm thinking about what you wanted to achieve, and then all of the things that you had to do in the 75 days, when in reality you have to continue to do that past the 75 days, maybe not to the level that you're doing it now, but yeah, it's still part of the process to get there. And we can look at, if you have, I like 75 hard. There's a lot of reasons why I don't like it, but the reason I
Yeah.
like it is it gives you intentional daily tasks and some ability to self-reflect. It's like, how I did really well on these things. What could I have improved on? I didn't do as well with meal prepping. So it gives you the sense of like really having an established wellness routine. And then when you're done, you can be like, okay, 2 workouts a day is not really feasible, but I can probably do better here in order to like still accommodate my goals, right? You like, sometimes you have to put yourself into a more extreme
That's
situation
it.
to self-identify like what are keepers in your routine, right?
Well, and learning more about yourself.
Yeah.
Like this was probably really stupid for me to do, as far as I have 2 jobs, I have a business, I have 4 kids, I have all this stuff going on. I don't have time for this. But I've always tried things and then quit, and tried things and quit. And I've spent a lot of time in the last 2 years working behind the mental piece of that. And I said, I just need to push through, not push through the feelings, but now that I'm aware of that, I can, it's almost like you can zoom out of your situation and then look at it objectively now, and you're like, oh, now I understand why I didn't ever feel supported. I didn't ever really believe in myself. Okay. And I'm doing it with someone, so that's made all the difference in the world. And it doesn't have to be your partner. Having a friend, having someone to be accountable for you and to see you and go week by week and go, oh, you look different, and have that, it has been made all the difference for me. But if some of you are out there and you're listening and you're like, this is me, maybe this was you, perpetually doing challenges, perpetually buying products, perpetually starting something, and I love it. I get the organization, I get the plan, I have the schedule. Like, I'm so good at that. And then something happens emotionally, I fall off.
Yeah.
And so I think just the pushing, it is crazy. So anyhow, it's honestly stupid. But like the fact that I can say like I did it and I pushed through. It's not about the bro dude mentality of like push through. It's about like, oh, I trained my brain now that I can do these things that I've made excuses about for all of this time. And now if I did this for 75 days, then I could do a quarter of this every day for the rest of my life. And that's possible. But now I think I actually believe it.
Yeah, no, that is huge. And I'm glad you brought that up too, because we have to trust ourselves in the process. And I've seen a lot in the health and wellness space is women primarily have a mistrust or distrust with their bodies and their ability to follow through with stuff. And there are very valid reasons: being busy, being a caretaker, or being a mom. All of those things, we're busy. But the more and more we say we're going to do something and don't follow through, then we have mistrust in ourselves. And it doesn't matter how good the program or the outcome. And that is another reason why I like 75 hard. I've done it too. I wouldn't say it's stupid. It's just very aggressive and
I shouldn't
extreme.
use that word, but yeah, like it was like,
It's hard. It really is.
Yeah.
But for you, it was very important for you to trust yourself again. And so you needed that extreme. And sometimes wellness isn't balanced. Sometimes you do have to be like, you know what? I'm just going to go all in, head down for 75 days. I'm going to regain my trust in myself, see my body composition change, and then reverse engineer the process. Because you can then be like, I'm going to do 1 workout a day, and I'm going to keep this diet going, but allow a little bit more flexibility, meal out with my boyfriend or, my spouse, whatever the case may be. And that's how we identify how wellness or any sort of goal achievement works in our lives. I had a financial advisor for a while who was very freaking frugal, and I could never live that way. Like, he was like counting the cents on the toilet paper and stuff. And the man had multi-millions of dollars in the bank. Like,
there's an emotional connection there though to his childhood. It's so amazing when you take out the emotion of it and you look at it as numbers. It's really just numbers. But we attach emotion to everything. And so we can't see it like that.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, I know that I don't want to live that aggressively frugally, but I do want to be a little bit more mindful of spending. So that, there is a middle ground for all of us. It doesn't have to be extreme all the time. And we will find it, especially if we start to regain that self-trust that we lose over. And I like to say it's not our fault. It is our fault, but life happens and life gets crazy. And so if we are able to do that level of internal self-reflection can be like, no, I can trust myself to do this. And like, I think it's rad that you chose 75 hard, especially in a place where you're like, I keep doing things and quitting them. It's like, you made it. You're 1 week out from 75 days, which is fire. Like, really good job there. And now, how do you feel like mentally getting so close to that 75 days as opposed to how you were on day one?
Well, we talked about this a little bit in the chat, and it is about me. I did it for me, but my boyfriend turns 50 on Saturday, so that we were drinking, and we were like, we should quit drinking for a while, and we're like, we should do a challenge, and it started as like, let's Google, and it was exactly 75 days until his birthday. That's the only reason that we're like, okay, that's a sign. We have to do this. Like, we got to do it. But I was feeling like so good in June because I'm the planner, I'm the prepper, and he was a little bit like sluggish. And then at some point it flipped because he's a dude. So he just like automatically like locked in. Oh, this is super easy. And his body just started falling off. And I was like, what? And so that was where the real mental game came in for me. It was my hormones, having weeks where I was eating. I got on the scale today because Tuesdays are weigh-in day. I weigh the exact number to the ounce that I did on my first weigh-in. But I took a picture and it's transformative. Like, so you can't, I got caught up on the numbers, and I had a week in July where I was really upset, and I'm like, why am I doing, it's just, it was this and this. And so it was really cool to like, a lot of what we need to do is shed. A lot of times we get really emotional and we get upset about things, and then we beat ourselves up or we're like, why am I doing this? No, do it. Like, let it out. Let yourself get rid of that. Because I believe a lot of weight sometimes is emotional and trauma stored in our body. And sometimes we just need a safe place, and we need to believe in ourselves and trust ourselves to be able to say, I don't need to carry this anymore. I don't need this to be a part of me anymore. I'm free to let this go. And that might sound too woo-woo to some people, but for me, I really feel like that's the process I've been going through. And like, I don't need the cortisol and the adrenaline and all the stuff that I lived on for so long. Like, I don't need that to run my life anymore. I want the balance. And sorry, that was a really long explanation probably to your question, but it has been a freaking roller coaster. And today I'm just like, I'm a week away. We did it. But it was no part of it was easy.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on there. Is that we have expectations of what we want the outcome to be. And what you said is so resonates, I think, with a lot of us. Is we're talking about weight, but we can transfer weight to anything. Like, you did this, you trust yourself again. The scale didn't show up like you wanted it to. But I also agree that weight loss I would assume that your body has changed pretty significantly. And we talked about this too. I think I changed 2 pounds in 75 days, but my body composition was so much different by the end of it. My energy levels, like, I felt really good. And that part all matters too, but allowing ourselves to let go of the negative self-talk and the mistrust is a huge part of the process. And I don't think it's woo-woo at all. It's hugely ingrained in who we are, even self-sabotaging, like, there's a lot of people that come into my community who really want to lose body fat, but I continually see self-sabotaging. And I believe fully that it's because they're not ready to let go of something internally. They're not ready to trust themselves yet. I see it in a lot of women, especially women who've had like reproductive issues or a lot of weight issues their entire lives. They've never been able to trust their bodies to work. And so they're continually allowing a path or a cycle of dysfunction to happen. And it is mental, but it also is emotional.
Well, I think it comes back to being safe. I realized, and it took me I'm 42. So it took me probably 40 years to realize I never felt safe in my own body. But that's because I didn't feel safe in my home. And that's because I didn't feel safe around the people that I was supposed to trust. And that's because I didn't feel safe around my husband. Like, I realized that goes back to the beginning. And so I had to do a lot of intentional work about, if there's one place on this earth where I want to feel safe, it's here. And when I started doing that, all of a sudden meditation got easier. And all of a sudden, all the things that make me calm and still and have to listen to my own thoughts got easier to do. Because if you feel like this vessel is not safe, then you're constantly external chaos, stress. You don't want to sit with it. So just like being able to, like, do you feel safe in your own body? And that should be the safest place for you to be.
Yeah, I agree. So before we wrap this up, let's chat. Maybe you can give the ladies one or two things. I know we kind of dove into this already that they can start working on when we're talking about self-reflection, when we're talking about improving our wellness, whatever the goal is. It doesn't have to be body composition related. It could be whatever it is you want. How do we start that process? Where can they get started today to trust themselves more?
You just said it, whatever it is you want. So what is it that you want? What is it that you actually want? And that goes two different ways. One of it is emotions. Like, how do you want to feel? How do you want your day to look? When you wake up, how do you want to feel? When you're at work, how do you want to feel? When you're with your kids, how do you want to feel? Like, there's a feelings part of that. And then there's like a tangible, more like, what do you want? What are your goals out of life? Whether that's for yourself, that's work, or whatever. So getting things down on paper. I'm such a proponent of writing everything out. Write it down, get it out of your head, energetically transfer it out of the ping-ponging around your head. Yeah. What's the word? I can't think what that's called, but of having it sit in here and write it down and get intentional about what you want. I've been looking back at my journal. I found a journal from 5 years ago. And I know that word might intimidate a lot of people, journal. I hated journaling. When I was a kid, I hated creative writing. I hated free writing. That is intimidating. So if you don't want a Dear Diary, you don't do that. Just write like how you're feeling, or write anything free write, anything that you want. F you, I had a horrible day. Like, whatever it is, it's the intentionality of getting something out of your head. So starting some sort of writing process for you, whatever that looks like. And then getting really serious about what you want and breaking that down into segments. Like we kind of talked about what you're doing before. Ultimately, here's what I want, but here's what would be awesome in 30 days. Here's what would be awesome in 60 days, or would be whatever it is, whatever it looks like for you. Breaking it down in a way that makes it seem somewhat, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you talk all about like SMART goals, but doing something that's actually attainable, that can give you a taste of victory and can give you something to look back and go, oh, okay, I did that. Now what else do I want to do? So breaking it back, and then really keeping tabs on how you're feeling. I talked about that a second ago, but if you are someone that's not, like, if I have a workshop that I do on, like, do you know what the core emotions are? Do you honestly know? And do you know what they are in your body? Do you know how they present themselves? Do you know the signals that your body's giving you to say, hey, you're feeling a little bit of anxiety. Let's take a minute. Like, do you know what the signals are? So sometimes keeping an emotions log when you are feeling overwhelmed, stressed, not wanting to do something, hesitant to something, write down. And maybe just like a food journal, maybe you can start making connections to, oh, this happened in the morning. My husband said this to me, and then it sat with me. And then later in the day, and then starting to kind of Sherlock Holmes your way back to like, oh, when this happens, I end up feeling this way. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of, okay.
Yeah. It absolutely makes sense. I think it's super helpful I think this is the first step to any sort of change, is just that self-identification, forgiving yourself for making a mistake, and having smaller goals with an end goal in mind. It's like, if you focus on needing to lose 50 pounds, it's going to feel really hard to lose 50 pounds, but you could focus on losing 1 pound. And then, the time goes, the days are slow, but the months and years are fast. So fast. So you get to the end of a year, and if you do the same things over and over and over again that caused you to lose 1 pound, before you know it, that 50 pounds is gone, and you're just on to the next goal. And I think it's spot on. And if we do something to take a step backwards in the end goal, because the middle is the hardest place to be. The beginning of the goal
is sure.
The end of the goal is easy. The middle, and it's where people stop clapping for you. People stop giving a shit what you're doing. Like that's why getting fit is
spot on.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
So when you get to that point, like, what brings you joy every day? I think as women and as moms, we're so consumed about other people. Like, what brings you joy every day, and putting that in your non-negotiable, whether it's playing the guitar, or going for a walk, or dancing, or whatever it is, whatever connects you to who you really are and what really makes you feel like you. Make sure you're doing that every single day. And when you get lost in that place where you feel, just stop and go do that thing. Just like before you get off on a tangent, just reconnect to yourself. Know the things that bring out you and do them more.
Yeah, I love that. I think that being joyful intentionally every day is huge. And another reason why I like 75 hard, and I've talked about this on here, is because it gives you pillars and we stick to those. Like we cling to them. And I suggest that for the ladies that I talk to, is like have that every day, 3 times a day. For me, it's writing in the morning, workouts in the afternoon, and then usually I'll take a Epsom salt bath or a sauna or something like that in the evening to wind down. And those are my pillars of wellness for the day. I navigate my food well, all those kinds of things. But if things get chaotic, I have those 3 things that I can kind of lean back into for grounding and support. And usually we go throughout our days with just chaos. And so that's why 75 hard is great, because you're like, I got to read. So you're quiet for
what I got to do. Yeah.
I got to take pictures. So I'm doing some self-reflection. I'm paying attention to my nutrition, and I'm hitting an outside workout and an inside workout. And you have these things to ground you. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but if we pick a certain amount of those things just to feel, and then like you said, something that brings you joy. Like for me, getting into the Epsom salt bath or sauna at the end of the day is like my signal to myself to relax. Yeah.
I love that. And maybe make a 75 light, or screw 75, make it 30, and just take 5 things that are meaning, I know I want to read more. I know I want to this, and just take 5 things and it's not about what you do. It's how you do it. So like you pick it, you pick the 5 things, as long as you stick to them for 30 days, that's where the rewiring, I think, really starts to take place. So make your own challenge.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's great. I'm going to do that actually this week.
You know what? We should do some sort of workshop on making your own creating your own 30-day challenge.
Yeah, let's do it.
It'd be fun.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, I thank you. This conversation was incredible. I know that ladies can find you on MomNation, but where else can they find you if they want to work with you?
So I'm on Facebook, but I'm so busy with the group. I'm not on my personal very much. So you can catch me at Divorce Community for MomNation. You don't have to be divorced. Maybe you're just struggling with your husband, or you're separated, or you had relationship issues in the past. That's really what you'll find there too. And then if you go to Instagram, go to Here Comes the Sunshine _ you can find me there. Oh, can I mention real quick, Mindful Mamas?
Yeah.
I almost forgot. So I'm starting Mindful Mamas for the MomNation group specifically. So it's going to be weekly. I'm going to put the Zoom link down below, or I'll post it to the group. What I'm going to do is the 1st and 3rd Tuesday of every month, I'm going to do night. And then the 2nd and 4th Thursday of every month, I'm going to do morning. So that way I can try and catch both types of moms. And it's just going to be an open space, a support group for like anything that you have, struggle, frustration, celebration. Maybe you don't have anyone to talk to. Maybe you can't talk to the people that are around you and you just need a place to be. I just feel like it's so important for us to have these spaces where you can go. And so, that's a free thing. Just like you're doing this. It's just something to have a place. But I do one-on-one work, and I do workshops, so you can check those out too.
Love it. Yeah, hit that up. That sounds amazing. We will bring Miranda back on, especially because we want to talk about creating your own challenge. So we'll do this again. Thank you so much, Miranda. This was an amazing conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Struggling to feel your best? When energy is low and nothing seems to work, it's time for a new approach. Here's someone who guides real people to real, lasting wellness. Meet Erin MacDonald, certified master health coach, nutrition coach, and NASM personal trainer. Helping you create simple, lasting routines that support a healthier, more energized you. Feel better, move better, live better. Because health isn't just a goal, it's a lifestyle you deserve. Take the first step toward feeling your best. Your future self will thank you. Connect with Erin today.